So today we're tackling something I think we all kind of talk about, or at least think about, introversion and extroversion.
Yeah, it definitely comes up a lot, and these terms get thrown around sometimes, well, maybe not always
Uh,
accurately.
Exactly. And that's what this deep dive is about. We're not just, slapping labels on people.
Mm,
The goal is to really unpack what these mean for how you get your energy, how you operate, maybe even spark a little self-discovery.
and we're basing this discussion largely on a recent episode of the Mind Talks podcast. They laid out some really clear ideas.
Right. Think of this as maybe your shortcut to the core takeaways from that Mind Talks episode. We're extracting the essentials for you.
Sounds good. Ready to jump in?
Let's do it. So first things first, according to Mind Talks, defining introversion, what's the absolute core idea?
The absolute key, they stressed, is energy recharge. Introverts, fundamentally, recharge their energy by spending time alone.
Okay, alone time is the fuel.
Exactly. Now, they can enjoy social events, Mind Talks made that clear, but those events tend to drain their energy.
Right, so after a party or a big meeting, they feel depleted.
Pretty much. They need that quiet time afterward to sort of fill the tank back up. It's not about disliking people, it's about the energy cost.
Solitude is energizing, not isolating for them.
Uh,
Okay, got it. So flip side, extroversion. What did Mind Talks highlight there?
well, for extroverts, it's basically the opposite energy dynamic. They gain energy from being around other people.
So social interaction is their fuel source.
Precisely. Think group activities, parties, lively discussions, Mind Talks pointed out these are the environments where extroverts often feel most alive, most energized.
Their energy actually increases when they're interacting.
That's the idea. External stimulation charges them up rather than drains them.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Like two completely different operating systems.
It really is. But, and this is a crucial point Mind Talks emphasized, it's not usually that binary.
Meaning most of us aren't 100% one or the other.
Exactly. They described it as a spectrum, a continuum. Most people fall somewhere in the middle, not way out on the extreme ends.
Okay, so there's a lot of gray area.
A huge amount.
Eh,
Which leads us to ambiverts, right?
Mind Talks brought them up too. What's the deal with ambiverts?
Ambiverts, as the name suggests, show traits of both. They're kind of in that middle ground.
So they can enjoy socializing, but also need alone time.
Yes. They might get energized by people sometimes, but other times they really need solitude to recharge. It's more context dependent for them.
That probably rings true for a lot of listeners, myself included. Sometimes you're totally up for a crowd, other times, nope.
Absolutely. It's a very common experience, which makes sense if most people aren't at the extremes.
Okay, something else Mind Talks tackled head on was a big misconception. Confusing introversion with shyness.
Oh, yeah. That's a really important one to clear up. They are not the same thing.
So what's the difference, according to their definition?
Shyness, Mind Talks, defined it as being rooted in a fear of social judgment. It's anxiety about what others think of you.
Okay, fear of judgment. Whereas introversion is,
Purely about energy management, where you
ah,
get your energy from solitude or social interaction, nothing to do with fear.
right. So you can be a very confident introvert.
Totally. Mind Talks use that example.
Mm.
Someone might be great at public speaking, totally comfortable leading a meeting.
But they still need to go home and decompress alone afterward.
Exactly. The social performance itself wasn't scary, but it used up their social energy. They need that quiet time to recover.
That makes so much sense. It's just about managing that internal battery.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about stereotypes on the other side? Did Mind Talks address common views of extroverts? Like, are they all just loud attention seekers?
They did challenge that, yeah. It's another oversimplification. While some extroverts might be naturally more expressive or outgoing,
It's not the defining trait.
no. The core, again, is being energized by external interaction. Mind Talks emphasize that many extroverts are simply skilled connectors. They genuinely enjoy people and draw energy from that connection.
So it's more about finding joy and stimulation with people, not necessarily needing to be the loudest person in the room.
Precisely. Less about seeking the spotlight, more about the energy gained from interaction itself.
Okay, let's talk practical implications. Mind Talks touched on how this plays out in, say, school or work. What did they observe?
Well, in school settings, for instance, Mind Talks suggested extroverts might naturally shine in group work, discussions, things like that. They might seem more visibly engaged socially.
And introverts.
They might excel more in quieter settings, independent study, writing assignments, deep thinking, where they can focus without lots of external chatter.
Okay. And translating that to the workplace, how did Mind Talks see it there?
Pretty similar dynamics. Extroverts might be more vocal in meetings, enjoy networking, thrive in collaborative brainstorming sessions, maybe.
Makes sense.
Introverts, meanwhile, often make huge contributions through focused, deep work, problem solving, analysis, planning, maybe preferring written communication or smaller group discussions.
I think anyone listening can probably picture examples of this from their own jobs or school days.
Oh, definitely. It plays out everywhere.
And Mind Talks made a really interesting point about teams, didn't they? About the mix being important.
Yes, the power of balance. They highlighted that teams with a good mix of introverts and extroverts often perform better.
Why is that? What's the magic in the mix?
It's about complementary strengths. Introverts bring depth, focus, careful consideration. They might notice things others miss.
Right, the deep thinkers.
And extroverts bring energy, communication skills. They're often good at getting things started, building connections, keeping momentum going.
So you get both the thoughtful planning and the enthusiastic execution, ideally.
Exactly. It creates a more well-rounded and often more effective team dynamic. Synergy, really.
Okay, that's a great takeaway for anyone working in teams. Now, shifting gears slightly, Mind Talks also link this to mental well-being. How does understanding your tendency connect to mental health?
This is super important. Mind Talks stressed self-awareness for self-care. If you're an introvert, constantly forcing yourself into noisy, highly social situations without breaks,
You're going to burn out.
big time, you risk feeling overwhelmed, stressed, just completely drained. It takes a toll.
And for extroverts, is there a flip side?
Absolutely. Mind Talks mentioned that if extroverts face long periods of isolation with little social contact,
They start to wilt.
kind of, yeah. They might feel lonely, listless, their energy and motivation can really dip. It's like they're cut off from their power source.
So knowing where you fall on the spectrum helps you manage your environment and your energy to stay healthy, basically.
Precisely. It's about honoring your natural needs, respecting your limits, finding that balance that works for you. Mind Talks really emphasize that self-knowledge is key.
And to help listeners gain that knowledge, Mind Talks actually issued a kind of challenge, right? A suggestion for self-reflection.
They did. They encouraged listeners, that's you, to just observe yourself this week. Pay attention.
Pay attention to what specifically.
How you feel after different things. After a social gathering, are you buzzing or drained? After some quiet time, do you feel refreshed or restless?
Notice what charges you up and what runs you down.
Exactly. Just gather your own data, see what patterns emerge for you personally. No judgment, just observation.
That's a great practical piece of advice.
Hmm.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, drawing on that Mind Talks episode, what's the main thing we want people to take away?
I think the biggest message, and Mind Talks put it really well, is that there's no better way to be. Introversion isn't better than extroversion or vice versa.
They're just different.
Just different ways of being in the world, different strengths, different ways of managing energy. It's about diversity, not hierarchy.
Yeah, absolutely. It leads to self-acceptance, hopefully. Embracing how you are wired and seeing the value in that.
And just as importantly, extending that understanding to others. Recognizing that the person who leaves the party early isn't being rude. They might just need to recharge.
Well, the person who loves chatting isn't necessarily shallow. They might just gain energy that way.
Right. It fosters more empathy, better interactions when you appreciate these fundamental differences in energy needs.
So here's a final thought for all of you listening, building on what we've discussed from Mind Talks. How could really understanding your own place on this introversion, extroversion spectrum change things for you?
Yeah.
Could knowing your energy patterns influence your choices, big or small, in your work, your relationships, how you spend your free time? Could aligning more closely with your natural flow lead to, I don't know, more effectiveness, maybe more fulfillment?
Definitely something to think about, something to observe in yourself this week.
That's your food for thought from this deep dive.